We're talking to Mike Brady, the new director of Mangrove. You acquired Mangrove, or the other way around?
Yeah, Mangrove acquired my agency, Focus, a boutique digital strategy agency from New York.
You came from New York and now here.
Yeah, and this is part.
What do you bring us?
What do I bring you? I bring specific knowledge and expertise in digital, 20 years worth, and specifically over the last 10 years focusing on the customer experience and how that strategy actually should or could influence the way you think about your digital and non-digital efforts.
So what do you think, what should customers do?
What should customers do? Customers should do what they normally do. What our customers should do. Our customers should think in terms of either the individual projects that they're working on, and stop thinking about it in terms of a campaign or a website or an app, and start thinking about it in terms of the customer or the customer's experiences that are influenced by those projects. It's kind of a
more always on customer journey type thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy because of the way organizations are structured and the way budgets are allocated to think in terms of the project, the website or the app or the campaign or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is that it's a slight but significant shift to stop thinking about in terms of that and start thinking about the customers that will interact with those initiatives, and make sure that you're actually designing not the website, but the experiences that are result from the website or the app or the campaign.
And how do I do that?
You do that by isolating that project, if you will, and looking at it from the perspective of what happens before it, what happens after it, where the customer's coming from mentally, emotionally, what their biases are, what is it that you want to get out of it as an organization, and making sure that you can design specifically an experience that does two things, really. One is make sure that it's valuable for the client and that it's pleasant. But the thing is you're not designing the website, you're designing the experience, and you're specifically designing it. You're thinking at that point in your experience, whether it's the website as an example, what is it that we want them to think, feel, and do as a result of visiting the website, and then designing specifically for that.
And how do you help your customers do that? What's your method?
Well, we've come up with a mechanism called the CX wheel, or the customer experience wheel. And what we do with that is we work with them through our customers, and we work with them and we map out the most important components of a customer experience. And in mapping it out, we're able to see the relationships between all the efforts that you're working on, so that you can start to understand how the design of one component of their experience should and could influence the other pieces.
So you start by mapping out the customer experiences. So how do you do that? Do you do research, or do you design by talking, workshop?
No, it's a great question. Actually, we start off just by mapping, not with the research. And we put the customer in the center, and then we map around that. So it's a wheel, concentric circles that add.
So in a workshop type thing with your customer, you design it?
Yeah. And then we design the ideal customer experience. But then at that point, after the mapping, what we have is we have a customer, we know what they want, we know what we want, and we know what
persona, customer journey.
Yeah, it's similar to those pieces, but it's really kind of just a single interface or a view of all the key components. And then from there, once we know what we want to do for them in terms of creating a valuable experience and for it to be pleasant, then we think to ourselves, what do we know about them that will help? And that's where the research comes in. Then we start doing research and we say, what are their biases? What are their natural tendencies and such? And how does that help us generate the value we want to create for them, as well as the perception that we want them to have.
And then what do you do?
And then we work on the pieces, because the customer experience is made up of 20, 30 different interactions with a customer. So we work on those individual pieces. Specifically, we work on the digital components.
And a wheel is round, right? So where do you come back?
Well, you come back at the end. So if you think of it as like initially being aware of your organization, and then considering your organization, then actually transacting some sort of purchase, or if it's a nonprofit, it's like some sort of donation or volunteer, and then then you actually have the actual customer experience where you're a customer, and then the last wedge of that wheel is the post-customer experience, and that's where you want them to be loyal. And then at that point, it should generate new awareness from to other other potential customers, as well as keep them engaged so that when they're ready to consider your product or your service again, you're top of mind.
And your services, they start with building this customer experience, but then building a website. Do you also do online marketing and all that stuff?
Yeah. So we at Mangrove work on the digital components of the customer experience. So that could be in the awareness cycle. That could be all the kind of SEO or SEA or campaigns and things like that, and digital components related to events and PR and things like that. Then when you get to consideration and conversion as it relates to digital, is the website and the newsletters and the content that it powers that stuff and fuels that. And then when it's the customer experience, it's hit or miss, depending on if you're a business-to-business services or you're a business-to-consumer product. It changes, but there's usually some digital components that are in there, maybe an app or something. And then at the loyalty, it could be a loyalty component, or it could be something a little more creative than that. But typically, it's apps in the end of the experience that adds some sort of value to the customer, but keeps you top of mind.
What's your most valuable little piece of advice that you have for e-commerce professionals?
Don't think in terms of e-commerce, don't think in terms of websites, think in terms of your customer.
And the experience.
And their experience, and design the experience. Don't design the website.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.